Welcome to the Atomic Impact Podcast. I am your host, Jason Osborn. And on this podcast, we interview successful business owners for them to share atomic, impactful lessons that they've learned throughout the course of their business career. And as always, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn reverse method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. We use this method about 26 qualified leads and sales calls in 10 days without any ad spend, outreach, or endless social media posting. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. That's Jason A. Osborne on LinkedIn. And the link to that will be in the show notes below. For today's show, our special guest is Mike Brenner. He is the owner of Right Chord Leadership, providing consulting, training, coaching, and speaking. So, Mike, it's great to have you on the podcast today. And I want to start off with a question that I always love asking, and it is this: if you were able to go back in time to when you started your very first business, what's the number one piece of advice that you'd give yourself?
Yeah, well, thanks, Jason, for having me on. I'm really excited to have this conversation. It would definitely be to not be afraid to follow your, in my case, somewhat unconventional vision for my business. And I know I talk with a lot of entrepreneurs who are maybe thinking of starting a business or have just started a business. And there's always this imposter syndrome, like, can I really do this? Maybe this is going to be a big flop. Nobody's going to, right? We fill our minds with all this negative self-talk, which I experienced as well. But I also had a pretty well-defined vision for my business and the kind of work that I wanted to do and my personal approach to the work. And I was able to kind of put that negativity aside and really lean in 100%. And I'm glad I did because that really made all the difference. So that would be the number one thing that I would not only recommend to myself, but also to others who are in the same space.
Yeah, yeah. And you've talked about imposter syndrome, and I think that's definitely a term that we're very familiar with and we hear a lot
Sure.
about. But in terms of the experience that you've had as a business and the levels that you've grown in business, just talk a little bit about that. What are some of the key things around imposter syndrome? I know when starting off, I think a lot of people feel that, but I think what a lot of
Sure.
people don't realize is even throughout the course of business, we still feel that as we continue to grow. So, what are some of the lessons you've learned around that you can share with people?
Yeah, well, one of the things, and maybe it's easy for me to say, but imposter syndrome is largely a manufactured, an artificial conceit that we create in our own minds. Sometimes it might have roots in something from our youth or something from our childhood where self-doubt creeps in. The ironic thing about imposter syndrome, Jason, is that it's typically experienced by very, very successful people. So there's this sort of, contradiction there at the heart of imposter syndrome. But each time in my experience where I kind of felt that, should I really be doing this? Maybe I don't know as much as I think I know. They're going to find out I'm a total fraud. Success breeds success. So yeah, you have to get out there. Much like I mentioned in our pre-interview, I'm also a musician. So once you get out there and you realize, like, I can do this, and people are responding positively to what it is that I'm putting out there, it doesn't maybe eliminate the imposter syndrome altogether, but it certainly helps reduce it or mitigate it. So the only way to really overcome that is to go out there, experience success, which all of your listeners can certainly do if I was able to do it. And that is the number one, I think, cure, if you will, for this sense that we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not experienced enough, is to just go out there, discover what you're capable of, which might surprise you, just how amazing you truly are at your work, at your doing your passion, and then slowly that fraud feeling starts to ebb. And that was my experience. And I suspect it's a lot of people's experience as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. And what you're it's kind of from what I've understood you saying there. It's a very much of a chicken and egg thing, isn't it? It's like you got the imposter syndrome and you want it to go before you do anything, but the only way for it to go is for you to do something. you, you know.
Yeah, it's exactly right. I mean, it is kind of a quirky dynamic there, but I truly believe it is true. If we sort of sit and mull over this negative self-talk, and we don't actually get out into the world and give the world our unique gifts, whatever they may be, then that's where that imposter syndrome gets fed and fueled, and it grows and grows. And so we have to sort of have the self-discipline to get out there, experience some success, network with people who are rooting for us, who give us that positive energy. I mean, I'm pulling from my autobiography, right? But I suspect that this is really works for just about anybody, not just me. This is the formula for overcoming that, is to get out there, meet people who boost you up, who make you feel special, who give you that positive feedback. And as I say, success breeds success. And so that would be the number one piece of advice that I would give to people who want to start doing their own thing.
Yeah, that's amazing. Love that, Mike. Well, one of the questions I like to ask as well is this, in the course of our business, we always have challenges. And I think it's always an amazing thing for us to share what those challenges are, because it helps normalize that with other owners going, okay, I'm not the only one that's going through something crazy. So I'd love to hear, like, what's one of the biggest challenges that you've gone through in your business, and what's the biggest lesson that you've learned from that?
I think one of the biggest challenges, Jason, was uh, deciding to move in a very particular direction when I was first starting my business, and that was the nexus between leadership and team development, which I had a background in. I have a graduate degree in that. I have a doctorate in adult learning and leadership. So I mean, I had the academic background. I had been doing this type of work for a number of years, so I felt pretty good about that piece. But the other piece was the music piece. And I spoke to a mentor about 10 years ago, and he said, well, why don't you consider sort of blending those two areas of expertise and passion for you, that being the leadership development and the music. There might be something very powerful, in the interface between those two worlds. And I thought, gee, that sounds fine on paper, but what if people think that's frivolous, or they don't get it, or it sounds, kind of weird. Like, what is the music and leadership? I don't get. So that was a big challenge, is sort of like reconciling those two worlds, which were such big important parts of my life. But as far as turning that into a marketable brand and turning that into a company, that I had some sleepless nights over that. And so the way I got through that is just being very thoughtful and strategic, and thinking about, well, just how might those two worlds come together in a way that people, even non-musicians, which most people are, will resonate with them. Because I didn't want it to feel like a gimmick. I didn't want it to
Yeah.
feel like just something that was sort of built on a house of cards kind of thing. If I was going to go in that direction, I really wanted it to be grounded in a way that made it feel authentic. And so that's the hard work that I did before coming out to the world with Right Chord Leadership. I really thought about, how can I make that musical connection in the work that I'm doing, really feel legitimate, and not like just like a gimmick. So for your listeners out there who maybe have this sort of audacious vision for their work, whatever that might be, and that's a challenge. Like, how do I make it feel real? How do I make it feel authentic? How do I make it feel like it's not just something I came up with to kind of be, it doesn't feel, it feels like, so the word is shtick. I don't know if you ever heard of that word, Jason. It's a
Yeah,
Yiddish
yeah,
word, shtick. It
yeah.
means just like, it's my shtick. It's my thing, it's my hook. Everybody has a shtick, to stand out. But you want to move from shtick to like authenticity. And so I would say, don't be afraid of doing the hard work to make that happen. So I thought about, different names for the company, and I landed on, Right Chord Leadership. And I had to go through, I don't know how many iterations of the name before I landed on one that felt real. And then I had to think about, well, how do I fit the music into the model in a way that makes sense to people? And I had to do a ton of work around that. But all that work paid off because I landed on language and framing and branding that ultimately felt right. I was like, this is the direction. This feels good. It doesn't feel like shtick. It doesn't feel like a gimmick. And then when I went out with that, people really responded very positively. So don't throw out the vision because you're not quite sure how to make it work. If I can make leadership development and jazz and music work, then your listeners can certainly make their vision come to life. But it might take some thinking, it might take some strategizing, it might take some late night phone calls with your trusted colleagues and friends. Hang in there until it clicks, and
Yeah.
then go out in the world and go, hey, look what I got, and people will respond to it. So
Yeah,
that
I
was
love that.
a huge challenge, was turning this vision into reality and doing the hard work to make that happen. So don't be afraid of that. That's a part of the process. I
Yeah,
discovered.
love it.
Yeah.
Love it, man. That's great advice, Mike. Well, over the next, let's say, 2 to 3 years, what are your goals in your business? What are you wanting to achieve?
Yeah. So, a lot of people might say, I have financial goals, for sure. And, we all have financial goals, but for me, I think, I believe that we are living in a time of a dearth of leadership. We're seeing it. We're seeing it in government. Our government just shut down the other day, right? So that is a direct reflection of, in my eyes, poor or lack of leadership. But we also see it in our organizations and companies for sure. We see it in our academic institutions. We see it in our healthcare institutions. We see it in our financial institutions. And it's kind of ironic because every year, there's thousands of articles and books written about leadership, and yet we still seem to struggle with it. I feel that maybe I'm a little biased, Jason, but I feel like my approach is a powerful one in terms of borrowing from music, using music as a metaphor for collaboration and teamwork and leadership and all the other things that go with that. And so I'm just looking forward in the next few years to continuing to bring my vision, my approach to as many leaders as I can touch, because I get extreme fulfillment when people come to me after a program or a session or a speech and go, "Wow, that was really powerful. That really made me think differently than perhaps I've been thinking about, my role as a leader." And I'm glad I was sort of exposed to some of your principles and concepts. Yeah, we all have to make a living for sure, but I guess what I want to accomplish is to help leaders be more effective, more successful, helping their people be more successful in this time of desperate need for great leaders. And if I'm able to do that in some small way, then I would consider that time well spent. I would consider that a really good use of my time. That would be very satisfying. Yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. I love that. I love that. I can hear the sincerity in your voice and the way you're communicating that, which is absolutely brilliant, man. Well, for people that
Thanks.
want to
Yeah.
find out, yeah,
And
people want to,
it hurts my heart to see good people struggling out there, and I think a lot of it
yeah,
comes back to just poor leadership, and people are thirsty for leadership, like, help, give me somebody that I can trust, and then that has my back and gives me opportunities and challenging work and is not a complete jerk. I'm just like, yeah, I hear you. So if
yeah,
I can affect that in some small way, then that's my mission.
that's amazing, man.
I
Love
didn't
it.
mean to
Love it.
interrupt you. Yeah.
No, no, no. It's great. No, it's great what you're saying there, Mike. For people that want to find out more about you, where's the best place for them to contact you?
Yeah. So my website is rightchordleadership.com. That's chord with an H. That's the musical version of chord, not the rope, which is CORD. I get that sometimes. So it's
Yeah.
Right Chord, CHORD Leadership. And my email is Michael, Michael, at rightchordleadership.com. And love to hear from some of your listeners if what I've said strikes a chord, right? I also have a brand new book out called Strike the Right Chord, The Emerging Leader's Guide to Exceptional Performance. And that came out last spring, well, spring of this year. And that is really a summary of my entire approach to building strong, trusting, collaborative, communicative, emotionally intelligent leaders. And that's available on Amazon for anybody who might be interested in that. And I'm
Amazing.
on
Wonderful.
LinkedIn too. So look
Yeah.
me up on LinkedIn. Yeah.
Good, good, good. Well, definitely everyone check out Mike for sure. And Mike, it's been absolutely just great to have you on the show. So thank you for being here. And as a reminder for everyone listening, this show is sponsored by the LinkedIn Reverse Podcast Method, the new way to close deals that doesn't rely on any of the old traditional methods that everybody hates. To find out more, direct message me on LinkedIn to have a chat. It's Jason A. Osborn, and the link to that will be in the show notes below. And until next time, just as a reminder, stay inspired.